Annetta Băvălescu, welcome to Europe Now.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Ambassador, how is Romania tracking in 2017, both regionally and globally? I ask because there's much recent discussion about Romania joining the euro, although the currency convergence, I gather, might only happen once there's income convergence with other European countries. What are your reflections?
Well, first of all, 2017 counts as the 28th year of uninterrupted democracy for my country. The 23rd year since we joined Council of Europe. 30th year since we joined NATO, and a decade since we joined European Union. So actually my generation of diplomats worked for these particular goals of foreign policy, and we succeed to deliver it. Now, of course, the end result of any politics, domestically or international, is the living standard. So now at the EU table, we are trying to, in Romania, we are trying to foster the macroeconomics statistics. After all, Romania was denominated the tiger of Eastern Europe. Only last year we had, but not only last year, we had the fastest economic growth among EU countries. Mm-hmm. And prediction for this year is around 5%. Even it looks a little bit optimistic. I think it will be delivered nearby.
So that being the case, can I just press you, I mean, to get income convergence along with other European countries for the monetary convergence, mm-hmm. How long do you think that might take?
Well, it depends, because global financial crisis affected much more Europe than affected Australia, for instance. I mean, in Europe, when you are speaking about 3% economic growth, you are speaking about a very positive example. So, having said that, I think that maybe during the next 5-10 years, if nothing unexpected or unpredictable happens in Eastern Europe, I think this is my bet, which is not necessarily optimistic, but it's somewhere in between being optimist or being pessimist.
In the wake of Brexit, what are the major challenges now facing the EU in general and Romania in particular at the mm-hmm. moment? And I ask this because obviously following on from what you've just mentioned, the global financial crisis, the massive fallout of mm-hmm. Migration in more recent times, mm-hmm. The challenges and stemming from ISIS and the globalization of mm-hmm. terrorism, so much has come very fast at Europe. Mm-hmm. Do you think Brexit is just simply one further challenge to be added to these others, or might it be, as some commentators have been suggesting, a kind of tipping point now for Europe?
Well, if we look at Europe during the last 100 years, Europe was a theater of First World War, Second World War, Cold War. And I'm having this, in a way, historical approach, because Europe revived after all these historical events, who were much worse than any working hypothesis in Europe now, including Brexit, migration crisis, and so on. So I think that Europe do have the inner capacity of, finding solutions to the current challenges.
Climate change remains very high on the political agenda in mm-hmm. Europe, mm-hmm. and the EU, again, has done a great deal of work in terms of the promotion and seeking to see the arrival of progressive mm-hmm. carbon targets and policies. With the similar arrival of various administrations that might be watering down somewhat mm-hmm. the focus on these progressive climate targets, what's your opinion on mm-hmm. the way forward now, and especially in the aftermath of the Paris Agreement?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, let me focus to my country, Romania, in Eastern Europe. Romania is responsible for 0.3% out of worldwide greenhouse for ratification of Paris Agreement. We signed the Paris Agreement last year in April, and we are now during ratification process in the Parliament. The impact in my country, it's manageable. Why? Because Romania is the only energetic independent country in Eastern Europe. We have a mix of gas, coal, hydro, nuclear and renewable energy. And as we speak, 23% of this mix is coming from renewable energy, wind, solar. And it's important this because beyond the historic moment of Paris Agreement, beyond politicians and diplomats, the actual implementation of the Paris Agreement is a long-term process. It will require a lot of money, not only from the governments who might help in many countries, the first part of this implementation, but also from business environment.
Which brings me to the relationship between Australia and Romania. As you know, Ambassador, Australia, since the resources boom, has become now increasingly focused on the theme of innovation. Innovation and science, the NISA agenda outlined by the Turnbull administration. In terms of innovation within Romania, scientific innovation, artistic innovation, and its many other forms of innovation and development, what can you tell us might Australian enterprises and industry and science look towards Romania in terms of a broader engagement? What should we be thinking about in this connection, and what might best take our fancy, do you think?
Well, thank you very much for this question. Innovation is a very dear thematic for myself because in a way, Romania and Australia do have a lot of commonalities. We are both countries of around 22 million people, which is not too much if we are looking around the globe. So the only way out to the global challenges is to be smart, and one way out of being smart as a nation is nurturing innovation and creativity. That's why I was very pleased almost 2 years ago when I organized the first symposium for Romanian diaspora living here in Australia. And I invited at that stage Minister of Communication in Australia, Mr. Malcolm Turnbull, to be our guest speaker, and we had a conversation about how diaspora, foreign diaspora, can influence in taking all good criteria development of a country. And that is why, for instance, one very particular example is that as we speak in my native town, Galați, Damen Shipyards, which is a Dutch company, is building the next Australia icebreaker, which is the main investment inside the Antarctica program delivered last year by Australian government. And the backbone of why Australia is building its only icebreaker somewhere overseas in Romania, which is, by the way, not a landlocked country. We have our neighbor Black Sea. Well, simply because the innovation hub there in Galați delivered the best customized solution for Australia Antarctic Division, which will be the end user of this magnificent ship.
Finally, could I ask you, or could I invite you to look through an ambassadorial crystal ball?
Yes.
I'm thinking, for example, in the UK, the Foresight Commission, which was originally appointed by former Prime Minister Tony Blair, is charged with the responsibility of mapping all social policy against the year of, I think it's 2075. I don't know whether we need to look that far out, but looking forward to the future, what would be your hopes and ambitions for Romania? And as an ambassador to Australia, who has spent considerable effort working with communities here and developing the relationship, what do you think might be possible for Australian and Romanian relations?
Oh, how many minutes do we have? So, first of all, if we are talking about 2020, 2025, my best guess would be like this. Entry into force of the EU-Australia Free Trade Agreement, certainly, maybe 2022, 23. Now, opening an Australian embassy in Bucharest, because my homologue is Ambassador John Griffin in Athens, covering bilateral relationship of Australia with Greece, of course, with Romania and Bulgaria. So why not an Australian embassy in Bucharest? Then an outstanding pool of researchers and teams of developing new software application, for instance, having a better broadband internet, by the way, here in Australia. This could be something that Australia might learn from Romania. Romania might learn from Australia how to become a Goldilocks economy. Why not? Because having so tremendous 25 years of uninterrupted economic growth, it's not just a piece of cake for any country around the world. And I don't know, maybe even thinking to have a direct flight, Bucharest-Canberra, why not? Romania was recently, during the last decade, discovered by Prince Charles. Transylvania in particular. Transylvania was listed last year by Lonely Planet as the most important region to be visited worldwide. Transylvania is still there. By the way, Tasmania was the fourth in the same, so it's not bad at all.
Yes, we're on the list together.
Yes, so I'm dreaming to have contacts and exchange of experience, from honey producers. By the way, we are not in competition. Romania is the biggest honey producer in Europe, but we are not at all in competition with New Zealand or Australia, because it's a different flora, and so it's not at all competition. So sky is the limit. I hope to see many more Romanians publishing here in Australia, many more Australians visiting Romania. Sky is the limit for what it will come.
Well, it's a pretty sweeping list, both current and future. Ambassador Barbulescu, thank you very much. Thank you for your great work in Australia, and thanks for joining us on Europe Now.
Thank you, Professor Elliot, and please enjoy Romania, and we'll be very pleased to welcome you in my country somewhere in the near future.
Thanks very much.